Hello everyone! If you haven't already guessed, today we have a Beidou deck, and with that let's get into the games. So what is this deck about? Well, it is of course a Beidou Tartaglia combo. And once we get over this boring stuff right here, I'll get it to explaining the game plan. So, as you might have already guessed, we start by immediately getting Beidou Burst round 1. If you look at my characters, you notice that I have Sethos as the third character here. That is partly so that we get access to Electro Resonance, because that makes us getting the burst easier. We don't need to always spend our meaty meat rolls, gladiators on Beidou just to get the max energy. Here of course we are running, I think in this couple of first replays you are going to see, we are going to be using 2 copies of Beidou's talent. Also here I could have technically killed Lini if I wanted, because of this thing, the talent card buff, and because of these I could kill Lini, but I decided not to. Also, you probably see that I use the skill in a timing so that we take less damage from the summons, even if the opponent wasn't going for the full combo that deck can do. But yeah, we have multitude of cards that allow Beidou to get full energy round 1, Electro Resonance included. And simply round 2 you burst Beidou, go to Tartaglia. Use Tartaglia skill in certain scenarios. If you have the good cards in your hand, you can also do a normal attack with shield round 2, but that's not always possible. But usually round 3 you go in, you fight, and you win the game. So that's the basic game plan. So Beidou burst, go to Tartaglia, win the game. But then you might wonder, why Sethos? There's a couple of reasons. Firstly, because we are running Electro Resonance, some of my cards are in fact setup cards, or in this case I have 1 copy of weapon. I don't remember the sapwood weapon, bow. Alright, I have 1 copy of that. We get to see it later in the video, but I have 1 copy of that, so of course I wanted my third character to also be able to use that bow, the same weapon. Here you see, this is what I meant, that if you get the good dice you can absolutely go in round 2, and that is good cards correction. Also quickly, because we are running Electro Resonance, and there's a bunch of discount cards for the normal attacks, there is the technical possibility that you can ramp with Liben round 1, which is why in these replays I'm gonna be using Liben. But honestly, from the games I played, you almost never get Liben, and therefore you should probably replace Liben with Varanara and probably some free artifact that gives you extra cards, Heart of Kafrina or the Flowing Rings, I believe, is the one that when you do a normal attack you gain 1 card. So replacing Liben with 1 Varanara with 1 such artifacts, whatever you feel like is the way to go. Liben it's very good when you do get it round 1, but it simply doesn't happen often enough to be a good strategy. But yeah, here you can see the damage you do is quite big indeed, thanks to the Tartaglia's Riptide marker, which increases the damage Tartaglia does to the opponent character who has this Riptide attached, of course. And because we do a continuous, every time you do a normal attack you do electro charge reaction, meaning that you can do in fact AoE damage. Which in fact, I really wanted to showcase this deck against crab, but I did not face a single crab deck when playing this, which was honestly quite a surprise. Usually when I try to play like any deck that is not a direct crab, if I play a deck that is not good against crab, I immediately face crab. The moment I play a deck that would completely wreck a crab deck, I mean look at this, we have electro charged AoE damage, we have high single target damage, we have Setos, which is basically the character made to counter crab, and I did not face a single crab. But anyway, this game is coming to an end. Let's continue the explanation about that later. And of course, Tartaglia being our DPS character also allows us to get access to the strong burst. So in the scenario that the opponent, for example, now throws the fight to the death arcane card, you know, the Capitano arcane card, it doesn't matter, you can just burst Tartaglia for ridiculous numbers of damage. But yeah, I'll get to explaining what Setos is doing here more in the next game.
The lantern is extinguished.
So, like promised, why Setos? Well, I already mentioned that I'm running a weapon. We should see it in one of these replays, but for now it evades us.
Come with me.
So why Setos? Simply because when making this deck, I knew I wanted to use Electro Resonance. That is something I already mentioned. We have an Electro character and an Electro Bow character, specifically so we have access to Electro Resonance cards as well as another character who can use the bow. Why not Visual? Visual is a perfectly fine third character. Because if you wonder, this deck is all about doing normal attacks. It doesn't really change whether it is Setos or Visual if you just do normal attacks. But you see, when you use Electro Resonance, your next character without energy gains the second energy. I think we get to see that as well in these replays, so I can showcase it better. But that means when we have Setos next to Beidou, like on the right, as it is currently here, when we use Electro Resonance on Beidou, Setos gets the other energy. And it's not about getting full energy on Setos. Never. It's about getting enough energy on Setos that you can do that cheeky normal attack that snipes the opponent's character that is low. Also, because this is of course a combo deck, it is incredibly strong against stall decks like the one our opponent is playing. Like this deck, there are two good matchups with this deck. One against Crab. I mean, because we have Setos and we do AoE damage and our single target damage is high. So this is a great counter to Crab. Not a perfect, but a great counter. And of course the second is against stall decks. Even though we are not reusing Tada or Edict of Absolution to avoid frozen reactions, the damage you do, like for example here, our opponent should have just bravely go to Sitlali and freeze Tartaglia. I don't know why they didn't do that. They are just in that stall mindset that only thing they can do is swap stall. And that's the reason for their downfall. Like here, there you can see, when you hit an opponent with the Riptide, not only do you do extra damage to the active character, but you also do an extra piercing damage. So that's why, you know, the amount of damage you actually do whenever you hit an opponent with Riptide, it gets increased by 2 as long as the opponent has more than 2 characters. Also, the Riptide, for those who might have forgotten or do not even know how the Riptide gets attached to the opponents, when you do a skill, a Riptide is attached. When you do a charged attack, it doesn't say it here, but when you do a charged attack, I think it says here somewhere, maybe, yeah, there. After the character uses charged attack, apply Riptide. And because we are using a bunch of cards that discount our normal attacks, almost each of our normal attacks is considered a charged attack. Also, when you take out an opponent with Riptide attached, I think we see it next round. Like here, we unfortunately didn't get any more discount. Like one more free artifact, we could have done a normal attack right here, which would have been real nice, you know, with Covenant of Rock and all. But yeah, that's why you should replace Liben. If Liben had been something else, it would have been much better. But yeah, when you kill a character that has Riptide, the Riptide gets inherited by the opponent's next active character. Like there, if we had that thing in hand, it would have been, I think, not quite the kill on Farina, but even more damage. Actually, quickly we can count it here. So if you hit an opponent, if you just have the skill active, you know, you have the melee damage mode that converts your normal attack to hydro damage, and you have Beidou burst, that's 4 damage to the active character plus 1 pierce damage to both off-field characters. So your base damage, your minimum damage when you have the combo going, is 6 per hit. If you hit an opponent with Riptide, you increase that by 2, so your damage gets up to 8, maximum of 8 damage per hit. Combine that with a weapon on Tartaglia and you get up to 9 damage per hit. And that's why this combination is really crazy, like damage wise. If I had, like, once again, as always, this was played in the Arena of Champions, so I didn't, you know, change the Libens midway through, because I could not do that. But simply throwing away the Libens, I mean, I was thinking that, hey, when you have the Electro Resonance, you technically can get Liben proc round 1, so I thought it was a good idea, but it was not. It's too... you simply do not get it. Also here I could have used the burst into the Electro Resonance into another burst, because if you know how the range stance burst goes, you reclaim 2 energy, meaning that you can just instantly use Electro Resonance to do another burst, which is also with this deck something you can very much do. Just if you have Electro Resonance in hand at this stage, you could have just do the burst, play this, do another burst. But because they were on Farina in this instance, and because my burst now threatens all of their characters, it was better to do it this way.
Shouldn't let your guard down.
And there goes Kokomi, and you can also see, even in the burst stage, the burst damage gets increased by the Riptide, and the Riptide does the extra piercing damage. And yet there you get to see Sidlali inherited the Riptide marker. It was King Squire.
Come with me.
We have 1 copy of King Squire in this deck. 2 copies is a bit much, because if you actually do the math when you round 2 go to Tartaglia and try to do the skill plus normal attack, it's actually better not to get the weapon math wise, depending, of course, highly dependent on the cards you have in hand, but 1 weapon is enough. Also here you can see our opponent doing some, finally, by the way, freezing Tartaglia.
End a few enemies?
I, of course, because in this case the Liben actually, you know, is useful. I can end my round on Tartaglia and reclaim all the benefits of Liben. But this is a rare occasion. This works only because the opponent is playing a stall deck and they aren't doing any damage. Otherwise I would have stayed on Beidou if they actually threatened, you know, to do some damage. But yeah, back to actually Sethos, now that we have his talent card in hand. When, and this happens quite a lot, when Tartaglia gets taken out and you still have Beidou burst going on, you can go to set house, play the talent card, and at the very at least your next 2 normal attacks. Actually, let's go basics. You have nothing on set house. Your normal attack does 2 damage. You play this talent card. Your normal attack now does in fact 4 damage twice. Okay, you have that talent card and Beidou burst is still active. Your normal attack now does 5 damage. So in fact, even though at first you might think, okay, Setos is here just to, you know, gain the benefits from electro resonance and do that last bit of extra damage, it's actually perfectly fine to go to Setos at any point in the game if you have the talent card, because your damage is still rather good. Like, okay, the minimum 2 is bad, but the moment you play the talent card it gets up to 4, it's actually good. Like 4 damage per normal attack that can easily be discounted by a bunch of cards that we have all in this deck. It becomes very useful. Here, of course, because they already played 1 egg, we want to take out Komi, even if it means using the burst. And our opponent, you know, whatever last ditch efforts they have going on here. I once again unfortunately do not have any way to do more attacks, but our opponent gives up, so that's that. On to the next one. Now at this stage I believe I've explained enough about the quirks and mechanics of the used characters and tricks we are utilizing in this deck. So let's in this match simply talk about the game plan a little bit more. So round 1 you of course want to get full energy on the Beidou, or alternatively you get 2 energy on the Beidou, but only if you have electro resonance in hand. Otherwise use whatever cards you have in your hand to get 3 energy to Beidou. The increased 11 HP somewhat helps you in actually getting or staying alive, like further into the round 2, even against aggressive decks if you are able to use the skill. Like I think in the first match you saw that. If you are able to use the skill to block some damage coming to Beidou, it is fine, somewhat fine, to actually take a little bit longer getting full energy onto Beidou. But the point is, you want to burst, like 90% of the time you want to burst, actually let's say 95% of the time, you want to burst round 2. Also there you see the Setos gets the extra energy, which is much more useful than Tartaglia getting the extra energy, because we are anyway gonna be doing so many skills on Tartaglia that he gets max energy. You don't need to, you know, get the electro resonance onto child.
Keep your eyes wide open.
Here our opponent, of course, a simple swirl combination, you know. Going to Herald, doing a Herald skill, going back to Gazua. Here we play the weapon, because now, you see, I played the extra dice earlier. That gets, so we had 9 dice in total. -1 from playing the resonance, -3 from playing the burst, -1 from switching, and we are left with 4 dice. We play the weapon so that we get 0 dice after doing the skill, so that if we get something from Chang the Knight, if he gets activated, we can play the Covenant of Rock and do a normal attack, assuming we get something that actually discounts a normal attack. Of course here Chang the Knight isn't actually going to get activated because it requires an elemental reaction or physical or piercing damage.
You're mine.
But usually you want to count it in a way that, or usually because of that, if you count it in a way that you switch directly, usually that one die that there was because when you play the weapon, it takes 4 dice in total to do the skill. But usually you want to spend just the 3 dice doing the skill, and the one left over you usually want to play, for example, strategize or Mentimetros or something like that. Which is why the weapon is not always the best choice. Of course, for example, Mentimetros is most often good if you have also Boar Princess, also Gladiator in hand, because then you can actually get value from the Mentimetros beyond just one attack that gets discounted. And because it's all okay, even with it's all very situational, when it's good, when it's not. Also, by the way, of course, if you didn't know, Beidou Burst.
Come with me.
Here, our opponent is using, we've seen Gilded Dreams, we've seen Sapwood, they are using dice magic decks. So we actually play the Covenant of Rock and switch to Beidou just to be safe. And if you didn't know, Beidou's Burst also decreases the damage you take as long as you take more than 3 damage. In this kind of matchup, it actually comes really beneficial for us. Also here we switch to Setos to avoid the swirl, because that is just the extra damage for the opponent, and we do not want that. But this skill good against decks such as our opponents, but bad against combo skills. For example, this does almost nothing if you are against Yoimiya Variously combination, because Variously doesn't do 3 damage, only the Yoimiya Burst proc does actually 3 damage, and that gets decreased by 1. So it doesn't really get value there. I mean, it gets a small amount of value, but it's not really good. It doesn't really change anything. It still takes almost the same amount of hits to take out characters.
Give me some space.
Here we do the skill simply so that because we have the talent in hand, and Tartaglia doesn't have much HP left, so that Setos is actually able to do something in this game. Of course, now we can see our opponent doesn't have much cards left, so there's a high chance they aren't actually able to do much this round. Of course, they have the Edict of Absolution going on. But that only comes back to hurt them, because now we get to snipe Kazuha with Gamblers on.
Ow!
Here, unfortunately, actually, there are some. Yeah, now that this match reminds, I first went to Setos thinking that, oh yeah, I'm just gonna do a normal attack. The Beidou Burst is going to finish off Layla, and then the passive is going to proc Herald's Revive. But then I remembered that, hold on, it doesn't actually work like that. So I went to Beidou, because now, no matter what character they take, Beidou can either kill Layla or proc Herald's Revive and leave Herald with low HP. Like so. Of course, here you also have to consider the fact that Herald can freeze both of my characters. But we luckily get the one Leave It To Me I have in this deck, which basically guarantees that I will win. I mean, they have 3 cards there. Arcane card is already played. There's no way really to buff Herald's damage enough so that Beidou will get instantly taken out, and all I need to do, this is what I talked about having Setos, is to clean up the opponent team. Unfortunately, our opponent doesn't allow us to see it, but it would have killed both characters in one hit. On to the next one. Now another blast from the past, the Sino Overload. Now this match was included because, hold on, well, Overload in the first place is a good counter to any deck that relies on burst rushing a character. I actually, with this match, one game I lost, specifically stuck to mind because it was basically, well, firstly my opponent had the perfect card luck, which was like, I've never seen such card luck before. Like, I don't remember seeing such card luck. They had everything they needed to fully counter me, but they used the, I think it's Vicious Battleground or whatever, the arcane card that makes the active character lose 1 energy in addition to running Overload deck. It was Lisa Overload. And to put it simply, that combination was simply too much. Like, Overload alone you can handle if you get Resonance card first thing into hand or at the start of the second round. It is fine to handle Overload if you get the Resonance. But both Overload and the, if it was Vicious Battleground, and I don't mistake the name, if the opponent is running both of those, it gets really difficult.
Cool.
Here, because we are afraid of the Overload, I mean, they played Catherine. We want Sethosua to actually take the damage instead of Beidou, because there is that small chance. I mean, Pyro Resonance talent card. Would it do 10 damage? Like, because, you know, -1, 3, 6, 8, 9. Well, to put it simply, there is the possibility that Beidou gets sniped, which is why I switched characters. It's a small possibility, but a possibility nonetheless. Of course, Sino doesn't have enough stacks to get the damage buff from this Pact Sworn Path Clearer effect he has. So it's not yet like
Let's go.
too big of a problem, but there's the possibility. There also I didn't use the fast swap, which meant there was technically the chance they played the discard weapon Tada and discarded Chevrolet's bullets, overloaded Beidou. Technically possible, yes. Very unlikely, which is why I just did a slow swap there. Save the leave it to me for later.
Let's get it on.
Keep your eyes wide open.
Here once again we unfortunately do not have any cards to follow this up, the burst and the skill with a normal attack. So we once again just go to Setos, so that if they decide to go to Sino, snipe Setos, we are on our attack, we are ready to fight. Of course here I'm taking the very real risk. They can have Fresh Wind of Freedom, they can have Gamblers in hand. Actually they already have Gamblers played. I'm knowingly taking the risk that they can swipe this round. But it is the showcase. I think I only really lost this match because my opponent had bad luck getting the weapon. If they had the weapon for Sino, this would have been actually a difficult matchup. But they did not get the weapon, which means that now, this round, I'm just gonna be beating the hell out of them. Like so. And you can see there, no matter what they do, Sino is already dead.
judgment has failed.
And now just, you know,
Alright, let's go.
make sure that I can use Tartaglia's burst to finish the game off. We use the Covenant and switch to Beidou. I mean, we have the fast web, we can just use that, go to Tartaglia, burst Tartaglia, and that's gonna be game. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else to say about the deck, but I still have one more game to show you, so on to the next one. And the last game against Whale. Now of course in this matchup, the biggest threat there is to my team is freeze reaction. Because number one, they can freeze Beidou before we can burst her. Number two, they can freeze Tartaglia when we try to actually fight. Of course, like I mentioned before, Zethos is a perfectly decent backup, even when you have Beidou's talents, Beidou's burst still going on, as long as you get Zethos talent card. Also, I should mention I'm running 2 copies of Zethos talent, 1 copy of Beidou talent. Because I did do some testing beforehand, and you know, Beidou's talent is very good because it gives you the possibility to get enough energy round 1 when you use the skill first. Like, you don't need to play any other cards, but it requires you have up to 5, a minimum of 5 Electro and Omni dice. And that is very inconsistent, relying on the fact that you get 5 good dice round 1, when you do not have any dice fixers, like I do not have in this deck. It's not reliable enough. So we are using 1 copy, because there are situations, like it's good to have in your starting hand, because if nothing else you can always tune the talent card so that you can do a normal attack. And in rare occasions actually playing the talent card is good because it allows you to get full energy and save 1 dice, which can be a Sealy or Strategize or something similar. But having 2 copies is usually not worth it. Unlike Zethos, having 2 copies of Zethos talent is actually worth it.
Keep your eyes wide open.
Here, I think in this matchup, our opponent could have actually like threatened me, but they were so adamant about doing just Chaska's technique to get HP on the whale that they completely,
Who's next?
you know, they do not realize the fact that how much damage I can actually do here. Like here we get to see around 2 when it's, you can already see I can do up to 2 normal attacks. Play that, tune that, 1 normal attack, play this combination, do another normal attack. And they ended their round on Chaska. I mean, Whale is gonna be dead here. Because remember, when you hit a character with Riptide, the next one takes piercing damage. And because Chaska got killed, Chaska had Riptide marked, it gets inherited by Layla, and you know, Whale is just dead. Easiest. I mean, if they had gone to Whale, if they had, you know, tried to freeze Tartaglia, that would have been, I mean, if they had round 1 gotten 3 HP on the Whale, round 2 frozen either Beidou or Tartaglia, I would have been in trouble. But neither of these things happened, which means, and I got really lucky, which means this was an easy win. But so yeah, this was made first and foremost as a crab counter. Unfortunately, I don't remember even how much I played with this deck. But I did not face a single crab when I played this deck, so you're gonna have to try it out for yourselves, and I'll see you all And next time, except this game goes on, because this is the one guy who did not give up when their opponent has when their only character has 1 HP left. So yeah, see you next time.